Welcome back, YouTube. I wanted to point out before we get into the $1.40 scenarios, I want to point out that we are mere days away from getting this golden cross here in Dogecoin. We are now above the 72-day average. So this is really good here for this asset. We are closing this gap very rapidly. I love the angle of this 14-day here. So it looks like we're going to get this cross here. Wanted to point out very quickly, someone asked a very good question. Um, how many days can we expect there to be start of that upward trend? And are we going to see that explosive movement as quickly as we did the last time we got that 14 crossing the 72? This is right here. We went from around 8 cent to around 23 cent. I'll say within like a week after we got that cross here, because we technically got the cross back here. We had a couple red days, and then we had like 3 green days and 4 really where we touched off of the 72, and then we just kind of went parabolic off of that. So we're looking at maybe 3 to 6 days if we're repeating the last time. But ultimately what we're looking at is, well, first off, this is a historic event here. We've never seen this many green days consecutively, at least in the last 2 bull runs. I checked back when this was happening because this was just absolutely astonishing. Will we repeat that and just blow through the 20s? I don't know. This is because I couldn't foresee this. I don't think anyone could. Again, this is the first time this has happened. I'm talking about in February, late February, through the first week of March, where Dogecoin just simply couldn't be stopped. If we repeat something like that, it will certainly be interesting, and that'll probably push us through the 20s. So that'll probably put us within, if not in the 30s, certainly within striking range of the 30s. But we can expect there to be an upward trend. It doesn't mean that necessarily that we're not going to have any red days again, because we should have had, I don't want to say we should have had, but normally we would have had some red days in here, but it was just overwhelming growth. So I'm just kind of saying that here. So don't necessarily expect there to be a week and a half of green days once we get the cross, because that was unheard of. But we should see an upward trend starting from there, where we can kind of start tracking the next leg up. And I'm going to use that to transition into the leg so that we can kind of build a case around this $1.40 situation. So when we start talking about the leg and a target of around like 45 cents, that is specifically for the leg. That's not necessarily saying that when we have this golden cross, it's going to be one God candle to 45 cents, or that it's going to happen within a week, right? Or 3 days, right? So we had this golden cross here. We peaked at 23 cents, right? Each of these candles are days, right? So we got the golden cross, let's say February 21st, right? We peaked, what is this, March 28th. So over a month later, right? So we peaked about 5 weeks later. So these legs can be bigger than this. They can be much higher than this. We can see retracements in here. As a matter of fact, let me go get another chart here. I want to make sure all my information is there. There we go. So we can see retracements in the leg where we have to grab liquidity and then we go on another run. These legs can take weeks to fulfill. So this kind of gives us the time frame that we're looking at. So we're saying Doge to 140. What time frame are we talking about? We are, historically speaking, that means we'd be looking at around Q4 of this year. If we're having a normal cycle, like a normal length cycle, that means that we're talking around Q4 of this year, Q1 of next year should be somewhere that we can kind of track peak bull run, right? We are expecting Q3, Q4, that infamous political pump for re-election that happens when presidents are trying to get reelected. The market just goes parabolic. I think we're seeing some setups for that already. So we can expect that to probably trickle over some into crypto. It's not necessarily linked, but when people are making money, funds typically get redistributed. So you can expect there to be some spillover there. And I do believe it will have an effect in crypto to a degree nonetheless. But time-wise, we're looking at Q4, and for peak, right? So we can have an ascension up until then, but peak meaning that we have a kind of like that blow off top right? We're talking Q4, Q1 of 2025. So what happens between now and that blow off top? Well, we'll get legs, right? Legs means that we'll have these runs here, run into a pretty much like a brick wall, go and grab liquidity and keep testing higher. That's typically what we'll see here. And you can kind of get evidence of this. I can go back to, let's look at 2021 because I can really zoom in for 2016, but I'll do this with 2021 and then we can compare it to Bitcoin and get an idea. Excuse me. So 2021, right? So we got our blow off top in around May, right, of 2021. We had the initial ascension. If you guys remember, if you guys were in, Dogecoin started bubbling really good as far as for mainstream around October to December of that year, right? It was trending on TikTok before it kind of made mainstream and before Elon had kind of heard about it. But you'll see here, we had these major run-ups, and I want to talk about this dip here as well. I'm going to try to not make this video so long, but it's a lot of information I can cover here because I know that a dip like this would psych everybody out right now. But so before we got this blow off top in May, we had this initial run up here. Look, so we would say this will be January 2021. We're at around 2 cent. We had a run to 9 cent in February. Then a big retracement here, around 50% back down to 5 cent, and pretty much went sideways. We had some testing here, some runs back up to 7 cent and cents, and then we had a drop right about down to 6 cents. And then we ran to 46 cents, right? So these will technically be legs. So obviously from 2 to 5 will technically be a leg. We had some retest here. And obviously this was a lot around the hype and momentum saying, hey, is it going to go back to zero or is it actually going to run? So even if we can go back before then and say when it was below a penny, right? If we want to classify this, and then we had the run to around 9 cent before we had pushed out. We can say leg 1 went back to around 3 cent. Then we went back to around 9, 10 cent, and then back down to 6. We can say leg 2, right? And then we consolidated. Then we had a big run to around 45 cent and a retracement down to around 13 cent. From 45 to 13 cent. That would freak people out right now. Sideways. So just a little side note here. Expect this type of volatility. Now, obviously, there was a lot more hyper stuff going around the coins then, but this is just shows you that the type of swings you can have. And you can see evidence of this even in Bitcoin. It's kind of like when I said Bitcoin was going to go to around 20,000. People were cursing and screaming online saying I was crazy, but then we went even lower than 20,000. Like expect these types of swings here, and you just have to have conviction in your investment. But this year, 45 to 13 would be considered leg number 3, right? And so this, when we got our blow off top, would be considered leg number 4, right? So we're talking about the initial here, and if we're using the similar setup where we're talking about the crosses, then obviously we would count these 4 legs. So if we're comparing that to this cycle where we are now, and we were set to say if we're going to go to $1.40, is there another setup in here? I don't want to use that. We would say the initial setup here for our breakout above our points of like liquidity, we would say how many legs does this asset have an opportunity to give us? So technically speaking, we would say this would be the setup of leg 2. So if we're charting based off of the 2021, and I already did this for 2016, this will take a lot more time, but as I believe 2016, we had 3 legs instead of 4. So if we're charting 2016 and 2021, when we get this golden cross, what does that mean? That means we are roughly approaching 50% of our way through the bull run, right? So as far as for in terms of legs, time-wise, we can get that extension because obviously some legs are longer than others. We can have a period of flattening like we just saw between leg 2 and leg 3 for Dogecoin. And, that can obviously take, a month or so. So we could trend sideways at 50 cents or something, depending on what's going on. But just giving you an idea as far as for leg wise, that would put us about 50% of the way through this bull run. So if we're looking at this trend here and saying, hey, we get this cross, we're going to around 45 cent. Based off of previous price action, obviously we'll see where this leg pumps at, where we get resistance, and then we can adjust the numbers. But we'll have the cross here around 14 to 72, and this will start our ascension. Again, this can take a month, month and a half, 2 months. We don't know. Every leg is different. The capital flowing in is different, but that puts us in position here for leg three. Leg three will be our most important leg to determine where our blow off top is going to be. What we need for leg three is for leg three to challenge the all-time high and hopefully beat the all-time high. Leg three should put us in position to go past the all-time high. That will certainly kind of solidify us going to that dollar range and over that dollar range here and giving us like a blow off top, in my opinion, around $1.40. I know you've seen cases, people saying $2, $3, $4. Something, a big catalyst will have to kind of come in for that. Maybe something on the presidential side, maybe some great timing with X payments. I don't know. But in my opinion, this is what the setup that I would have to kind of see to stick to those numbers. So I'm thinking leg three would need to challenge the all-time high. So here, this run, we're going to 45 cent range. We can certainly have some overshoot there. Maybe high momentum, like a new catalyst can certainly come out and we can have that overshoot. FOMO is always a thing. You can't chart that. I can't tell you what the effect of FOMO would be, but we would need to be somewhere in that range, which I think we'll get pretty, I'm not gonna say easily, but I think we'll get there pretty comfortably, and we will set up for leg three. Now, leg three is gonna be very fundamental to getting that blow off top to around like that $1.40 range, because what happens is as we get later in the cycle, more capital runs into the market, right? More capital runs in, and they're looking for distribution and representation outside of the other coins here. Because we can take a look here. I went over it yesterday in yesterday's video with CoinMarketCap. I'm breaking down institutional allocation, showing you how the coins are trending together. And as long as there's no divergence there, they're all getting not necessarily an equal amount of money, but they're all getting represented with the institutional allocation here. So that's why they're trending very similar. So until you have a break of formation there, it's going to trend overall with the market. In layman's terms, that means that if the crypto market goes from, let's say, 2.5 trillion right now, where it is now, to peak at 8 trillion, 10 trillion, which is somewhere where I think it's going to peak at, the coins here, specifically the top 10s, are going to get a massive amount of allocation of funds, right? We peaked somewhere around 4 trillion last time. We can take a look here. Because sometimes people say, oh, $1.40, that's like $140 billion and for allocation for Dogecoin. That's nothing in an 8 to $10 trillion market cap. That's, I don't want to say it's nothing. Obviously, what is it? Crypto. If I can't spell. Total market cap. Jesus. Here we go. So that's nothing in a $10 trillion market cap, right? So what we're looking at here, using similar patterns here, just so that we can kind of track everything together. This is 1.5 trillion where we were last time. And when we got this golden cross and we went to around 2.7, right? So we're talking about roughly around almost 100% increase, right? So looking here, this lag for crypto allocation should give us somewhere around 5 trillion, which puts us at a new all-time high. The next one would put us where we're going to get that massive momentum. So we're talking leg three. It's showing up here in the in the total market cap. Leg three, leg four, because if you want to count these two from like October, where you kind of see where the market really bottomed, then that's what if you want to count that one, you can say this is leg three as far as for total market cap, right? So the next one, and the leg three, leg four is going to be where we get the massive amount momentum at, right? We can start to say, okay, well, where are we going to peak? We can kind of get to adjust those numbers there. So if we want to, let's see here. I'm trying to find a setup here. Okay, we were so far above it, even when we got the death cross, it wasn't. We're breaking so many records here. It was just such a huge gap between the two. Even back then, we can say 1, 2, 3. So yeah, even for, so if you want to say 2021, we certainly had some in before, because we can say 1, then we had like a retracement here for 2020, but yeah. So even if you want to say we had 4 crosses for total market cap in 2020, we certainly did. Back, even starting back in, if you want to say January, where typically we got our push here for the halving of Bitcoin, and we saw the respective wallet increases, price and volume increases throughout crypto, and we actually even ran early, not just Doge, but the entire market in 2020. You can make the case and say, hey, we had 4 legs before we got that blow off top in 2021. And the crazy thing about it is we even trended higher later that year, even though the market technically was falling. We still got another push, which is what you can either call that 4 if you want to count the first one before the death cross, or this would be 5 before we got that big sell off here, and that point of no return. So you even sold off and you dipped below the 200-day moving average before recovering. Now, obviously, this is mostly Bitcoin, but it has the weight of the other coins as well. But I'm aware that Bitcoin can obviously dramatically affect this chart, but it gives you an idea of what to expect, right? Because when we got that, before we got that blow off top where most of the altcoins, meme coins peaked, we were at $365 billion, right? And when we got that blow off top, we peaked at 2.5 trillion. And then we went up to over $3 trillion, right? So we're talking about a substantial increase here. So this is one of the reasons, if we're going to have anything similar to what we had in 2021, this is one of the reasons why I think we have a potential to get to around 10 trillion this market cap, this this bull run. I think we have an opportunity to get to around 10 trillion. And that's going to certainly create the spillover that we need and the allocation of funds for a higher priced Dogecoin and coins alike, right? You can call for 10 trillion, excuse me, you can call for $10,000 Ethereum. You can call for six figure Bitcoin, which I think we'll probably achieve with this next leg here. I don't even think that's going to be something that we gonna have to wait on to peak bull run. I think Bitcoin will have be in 6-figure range long before we get to peak. So the question is just how deep into peak we're going to go. You can find evidence here to support this, even with Bitcoin and our allocation of 41,000 at the last cross, peaking at the all-time high, around like 73, 74. And we just got our signal for the next cross here. So we're really talking about Bitcoin's already gave the signal. That's going to give the signal to total market cap probably today, tomorrow, Monday. And then we'll have that signal for Doge maybe like Tuesday, Wednesday, probably Thursday at the latest of next week. And we're going to have all these are going to confirm each other, and we're going to have that signal to kind of signify the next leg up. So the thing from there is going to be positioning, making sure we get within that 45 cent range. The higher, the better. Because the consolidations, as people say, can you make these projections? Because typically in runs, we do not overlap, right? A lot of times people are asking about, is it possible we're going to go back to 15? After our next leg up, highly unlikely unless we're doing an extreme reversal or we've already peaked. What I mean by that is we remember, just for clarification, remember when we had this cross here at around 8 cents, and technically speaking, we were supposed to get rejected at around 10 cent or 12 cent for the people that for the people that have been here for a while. So 10 cents, 12 cents was supposed to give us some trouble, right? But we blew right through them, no problem. And they were expecting that retracement back to 8 cent, right? Even here, when we got rejected off of 20 cents, they were saying, hey, back to 10 cent, back to 8 cent. And we never revisited those numbers. That's one of the reasons how you can tell you're kind of like an official run here, because it'll have points where we have that sell off or it reaches for liquidity, but it does not give up all of the gains, right? So one of the things are, if we were grabbing liquidity at around 12 cents and our main point of testing was around 15 cents, on the next leg up, let's say we get the 45, 50 cent range here, our pool of liquidity is going to be higher than where our pool of liquidity was for 22 cents, right? So that puts us in a completely different zone. When you are typically grabbing liquidity, unless you are getting ready for like peak bull run, kind of like when we went from 45 to 13 cents, that was a one-time thing, and after it saw that, it immediately went parabolic. Typically speaking, you don't blow through 5, 6, 7 zones to grab liquidity, right? Normally that happens in some time with like extreme panic and there's a major sell-off, and then the buying pressure comes in at those levels and it becomes overwhelming, and then you get something like we saw in 2021 where it goes from 13 cents to an all-time high, and more than 3x in the value in a matter of days. So unlikely once we go through our next leg, because I had to explain this in the comments the other day, but once we go through our next leg, it's unlikely we'll come back to these numbers here. So just kind of keep in mind, for those of you saying, hey, you're hoping for pullbacks, just kind of keep in mind and kind of like read the room as far as where we are. We are getting signals to start our next leg, right? So if you're saying, where can we get the best price or trying to get in, these numbers here, as far as from the leg, like if you're trying to do a retest, the best price was obviously down here. This is why I gave like the zones when I was saying 15 cents. If you can get it below there, then it's going to be golden. But when you're getting ready for the next leg, again, my opinion, not financial advice, I would do it sooner rather than later, before you're getting signals for the next leg, because otherwise you're going to be buying green candles. So sometimes it works out. Again, this is historic, but any day you could have bought any day here and turned a profit the next day, but it's unlikely that we see a repeat like that. So that is my case in the setup for $1.40. I hope you guys found value. This is a lot longer video than I thought, but if you can help with me beating the Bitcoin to $100,000 by helping us get to 100,000 subscribers first, I greatly appreciate it, especially if you made it this far in the video. That means that you were certainly finding value. So I hope that you found enough value to subscribe to the channel. I would greatly appreciate it. Leave me a comment in the comment section, and I'll see you guys in the next video.